Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. I've been driving 18-wheelers for nearly 15 years now. I've seen a lot of weird stuff on the road, strange hitchhikers, abandoned cars in places they shouldn't be. Fog so thick it felt like driving through another dimension. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what happened on Interstate 80 through Nebraska back in October of 2019. It was around 2 in the morning. I was hauling a load of electronics from California to Pennsylvania, and I'd been on the road for about 10 hours straight. I know, you're supposed to take breaks, log your hours properly. But the company I was working for at the time had this unspoken rule that if you wanted the good routes, you pushed a little harder than the DOT regulations technically allowed. The highway was empty. I mean, completely empty. I hadn't seen another vehicle in over 30 miles. The landscape around me was nothing but flat darkness. Cornfields that stretched out forever on both sides of the road. No streetlights, no houses. Just the occasional green mile marker reflecting in my headlights. My CB radio had been quiet all night. Most truckers don't use them as much as they used to. Everyone's got cell phones now. But I kept mine on out of habit. There's something comforting about the static, the occasional burst of chatter from another driver. It makes you feel less alone out there. I was reaching for my thermos of coffee when the radio crackled to life. Unit 473, this is dispatch. Come in, 473. I glanced at the radio, confused. My unit number was 473, but dispatch never called over CB. They always used the company phone or the onboard GPS communication system. Still, I picked up the handset. This is 473. You got the wrong channel, dispatch. Call me on the company line. Static for a moment. Then the voice came back. Negative, 473. Phone lines are down. Need you to confirm your location. The voice sounded strange. Tinny, like it was coming through old equipment, but I'd heard worse audio quality on CB before. I'm on I-80 eastbound, about 40 miles west of Grand Island. What's this about? More static. When the voice returned, it sounded closer somehow. More intimate. 473, we need you to take the next exit. Route 14 north. There's been an accident. We need you to provide assistance. I frowned. That didn't make any sense. If there was an accident, they'd send emergency services, not reroute a commercial truck. And why would they need me specifically? Dispatch? That doesn't sound right. I'm going to call in on the company line and verify. I reached for my phone. No signal. I stared at the screen, watching the little "no service" message mock me. That was weird. I'd had full bars just 20 minutes ago. The radio crackled again. 473, this is urgent. Take exit 312, Route 14 north. Immediate assistance required. Something in my gut twisted. The voice sounded wrong. Can't explain it better than that. It was like when you hear someone trying to imitate another person's voice. Technically accurate, but missing something essential. Missing humanity. I'm not taking that exit, I said firmly. I'm going to continue on my route, if this is really dispatch. You can reach me when my phone signal returns. Silence. Long enough that I thought the conversation was over. Then the voice came back, and this time it wasn't even pretending to sound professional. You need to take exit 312, Michael. My blood went cold. I'd never given my name. The voice on the radio had just used my first name. Who is this? I demanded. Take exit 312. Route 14 north. There's someone waiting for you, Michael. Someone who's been waiting a long time. I slammed the handset back onto the receiver. My hands were shaking. I checked my mirrors. Nothing but darkness behind me. The road ahead was empty. Exit 312 was coming up in 2 miles according to the green sign that flashed past. The radio crackled again, but I didn't pick up. Instead, I heard something that made every hair on my body stand up. It was my own voice coming through the speaker. "Please help me. Please. I'm so cold. I've been waiting so long." I stared at the radio in horror. It was my voice, but younger somehow, the way I might have sounded 20 years ago. And there was something in the background of the transmission, a wet, dragging sound, like something being pulled through mud. "Please, Michael, exit 312. I can't leave until you come. Please." I grabbed the radio and turned it off. Completely off. But I could still hear the voice, faint and static-filled, coming from the speaker. "Please, please. I'm at the old grain elevator. Exit 312, please, Michael. It's so cold here. It's so dark. I've been waiting since the accident. Please." Accident. The word hit me like a physical blow. When I was 19, before I became a trucker, I'd taken a road trip with my best friend Danny. We were driving through Nebraska, heading to Colorado for a camping trip. It was late at night, and we were on some back road, I can't remember which one. Route 14, maybe. We'd been drinking, which was stupid. So incredibly stupid. Danny was driving. I was in the passenger seat, half asleep. I remember seeing the lights of a grain elevator in the distance, and then I remember headlights coming at us from the wrong direction. Danny swerved. We hit gravel. The truck rolled. I woke up in a hospital 3 days later. They told me Danny had died instantly. They told me I was lucky to be alive. They told me a lot of things, but I couldn't hear them through the guilt. We'd been on Route 14, near a grain elevator, about 40 miles west of Grand Island. Exit 312. The voice on the radio kept calling, kept begging, but it wasn't Danny's voice. It was mine, the version of me that had died that night in all the ways that mattered, the version that had been left behind in the guilt and the darkness. I pressed my foot down on the accelerator. The speedometer climbed, 65, 70, 75. Exit 312 flashed past in the darkness. I didn't even glance at it. The radio finally went silent. I drove through the night, hands gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I didn't stop until I reached a truck stop in Iowa, 300 miles away. I sat in the parking lot as the sun came up, watching normal people go about their normal lives, truckers filling up on coffee, families heading out after a night in cheap motel rooms. I called my dispatcher on the company line, asked if they'd tried to reach me last night. They said no, said everything had been quiet. I never drove through that stretch of Nebraska again. I specifically requested routes that avoided it, and I never turned my CB radio on after dark. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm alone in the cab, I can hear static from the speakers, even though the radio is off. And underneath that static, if I listen carefully, I can hear a voice that sounds like mine. It's still waiting, still calling, still cold. And sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd taken exit 312. If I'd driven north on Route 14, if I'd gone back to that grain elevator and faced whatever was waiting there in the darkness, but I don't wonder long. Because deep down, I know it would still be waiting. It would always be waiting. And one day, I'm afraid I won't be strong enough to drive past. My name is Sarah Chen, and I've been a long-haul trucker for 8 years. In this industry, as a woman, you learn pretty quickly to trust your instincts. That little voice in the back of your head that says something isn't right. You listen to it. It's kept me safe more times than I can count. What happened in West Virginia in the summer of 2021 taught me that sometimes your instincts aren't enough. Sometimes the danger doesn't announce itself until it's already too late. I was hauling a load of furniture from North Carolina to Ohio, taking Route 19 through the mountains. It was a route I'd driven dozens of times before. The roads were narrow and winding, cut through thick forests that seemed to swallow the sunlight even in the middle of the day. But I knew every curve, every steep grade, every place where you had to watch for deer. It was about 9 o'clock at night when I heard the first transmission. A woman's voice came through my CB radio, broken and distorted by static. Please, anyone. Route 19 northbound. Need help. Truck won't start. Please. I immediately picked up the handset. As a woman driver, I always tried to help other women on the road. We looked out for each other. Hey there. This is eastbound Sarah on Route 19. What's your 20? I can call for a tow truck or come give you a jump if you're close. Static. Then her voice came through again, but it wasn't responding to me. It was the exact same message. Please, anyone. Route 19 northbound. Need help. Truck won't start. Please. Word for word identical. Same inflection. Same brakes in the same places. Hello? Can you hear me? What's your location? The message repeated a third time. Exactly the same. I frowned and adjusted my radio, thinking maybe she was hitting her talk button but couldn't hear responses. Sometimes the equipment gets wonky in these mountains. If you can hear me, I'm about 15 miles south of Beckley. If you're between me and there, flash your lights and I'll spot you. The message played again, and again, and again. Every 30 seconds, like clockwork, that same desperate plea repeated over my CB. Same voice, same static, same everything. I started paying closer attention to the sides of the road, scanning for a disabled truck. The message said she was northbound, same direction I was heading. If her truck had broken down, I should be coming up on it. But mile after mile there was nothing. Just dark trees pressing in on both sides of the road, and that voice repeating over and over. Please, anyone. Route 19 northbound. Need help. Truck won't start. Please. After about 20 minutes, I tried calling it into highway patrol, but my phone had no signal, not unusual in this part of West Virginia. The mountains played hell with cell reception. Another truck's voice broke through on the CB. Eastbound Sarah, this is Rolling Stone. You trying to respond to that woman asking for help? Relief washed through me. At least, I wasn't the only one hearing it. Yeah, Rolling Stone. You hear her too? She's not responding to me. Message just keeps repeating. Same here. Been listening to it for about 30 miles now. I'm southbound, heading the opposite direction. Thought I'd see her disabled truck, but there's nothing out here. 30 miles, I said slowly. I've only been hearing it for about 20 minutes. Well, I picked it up way back near Summersville. Figured someone would have reached her by now, but that message just keeps playing. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. Rolling Stone. If you've been hearing it for 30 miles, and I'm hearing it now, and she says she's northbound on Route 19, where exactly is she? Silence on the other end. Then, don't know eastbound, but I don't like it. Something about this feels wrong. He was right. Something felt very wrong. The message kept repeating. I tried responding a few more times, but nothing changed. Just that same loop, over and over. Please. Anyone. Route 19 northbound. Need help. Truck won't start. Please. I was about 10 miles south of Beckley when I saw the green historical marker sign by the side of the road. I'd passed it 100 times before and never paid much attention, but this time my headlights caught it at just the right angle, and I actually read it. Site of the Route 19 accident, 1994. Memorial for Linda K. Morrison, truck driver who died when her vehicle broke down and was struck by a passing semi. May she rest in peace. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. 27 years ago. I grabbed my CB handset with shaking fingers. Rolling Stone, you still there? Yeah, eastbound. What's up? You ever hear about a truck driver named Linda K. Morrison? Died on this route back in '94? Long pause. Can't say I have. Why? Because I just passed a memorial sign for her. Said she died when her truck broke down and got hit by another semi. The silence that followed was heavy. The repeated message continued in the background, unchanging. Eastbound. You're saying that voice we're hearing. I don't know what I'm saying, I interrupted. But I'm saying something isn't right. That's when the message changed. The woman's voice came through, but this time it wasn't a recording. This time it was different. Sarah Chen, you need to slow down right now. My blood turned to ice. She'd used my name, my full name. Who is this? I demanded. Sarah, there's a truck 3 miles ahead of you. Broke down, no lights, drivers in the cab, drunk, passed out. You're going to hit him if you don't slow down. You're going to die just like I did. I stared at the dark road ahead of me. My speedometer read 60, fast for these winding mountain roads, but not dangerously so. This isn't funny. Who is this? Slow down, Sarah. Please. I can see it. I can see everything on this road. I've been watching for so long, trying to warn people, but they can't usually hear me. You can hear me. Please slow down. Every rational part of my brain said this was a prank, some sick joke. But that cold feeling in my gut was getting stronger. I eased off the accelerator. 55, 50, 45. That's good, Sarah. Slower. You'll see it around the next curve. Put your high beams on. I shouldn't have listened. I should have kept driving normal speed and proved this was all nonsense. But something in that voice, something desperate and genuine, made me obey. I slowed to 35 and flipped on my high beams as I came around a sharp curve. There, in the middle of my lane, was a semi-truck. No lights, no reflectors visible, just a massive dark shape that would have filled my windshield in about 3 seconds if I'd been going my normal speed. I slammed on my brakes, heart hammering. My truck shuddered and slowed, stopping about 20 feet from the disabled vehicle. I sat there, hands shaking, breathing hard. If I'd been going 60 around that curve, I would have had maybe 1 second to react. Not enough time, not nearly enough. The CB crackled. Is anyone there? Please, someone help. My truck won't start. Please. It was the original message again. The loop. But now it sounded different. Not like a recording, like a warning, like a woman who'd died alone on a dark road, and who'd spent 27 years trying to keep it from happening to others. I grabbed my CB handset. Thank you, I whispered. Linda K. Morrison. Thank you. The radio went silent. Completely silent. No static. No repeating message. Nothing. I called Highway Patrol as soon as I got signal back, told them about the disabled truck. They found the driver passed out drunk in the cab, just like the voice had said. I've driven Route 19 probably 50 times since that night. I've never heard that repeating message again, but every time I pass that memorial sign, I slow down, and every time I whisper a quiet thank you to a woman I never met, a woman who saved my life from beyond the grave. Because sometimes the voices on the radio aren't trying to hurt you. Sometimes they're trying to keep you from ending up like them, alone, broken down, and invisible in the dark until it's too late. Sometimes the ghosts on the highway are the only angels we have. I've been driving trucks since I was 23 years old. Now I'm 47, and I've logged over 2 million miles across this country. I thought I'd seen everything the road had to offer. But in February of 2020, driving across Montana on Interstate 90, I experienced something that still makes me question my own sanity. It was late evening, around 8 o'clock. The sun had set an hour ago, and I was driving through an absolute whiteout blizzard. Snow was coming down so hard I could barely see 10 feet in front of my hood. The wind was pushing my rig around like it weighed nothing. Every instinct told me to pull over and wait it out, but I was already behind schedule, and the company I worked for didn't like excuses. My CB radio had been quiet all night. Most smart drivers had already parked it until the storm passed. But I kept pushing forward, white-knuckling the steering wheel, watching the road disappear into a wall of white. That's when I heard them. Breaker 19, this is Lead Dog. Got a convoy forming up, heading eastbound on 90. Anyone wants to join up for safety in numbers, fall in behind. We'll get through this together. I grabbed my CB handset immediately. Driving in a convoy during a storm was smart. Multiple sets of lights, people watching out for each other, shared information about road conditions. Lead Dog, this is Midnight Runner. I'm eastbound on 90 just past Garrison Junction. I'd love to join up. What's your 20? Midnight Runner, we're about 2 miles ahead of you. You should see our taillights soon. We got 4 trucks in formation. You can make it 5. Relief flooded through me. I wasn't alone out here anymore. Sure enough, within a few minutes, I saw red taillights emerging from the snow ahead. 4 trucks in a tight convoy, moving at a steady pace. I accelerated slightly to catch up and fell in behind the last one. Lead Dog, Midnight Runner. I got you visual. I'm in position. Roger that, Midnight Runner. Welcome to the party. Stay close, keep your lights on, and we'll all make it through this together. Over the next hour, I followed those tail lights through the worst of the storm. The convoy moved with practiced precision, steady speed, no sudden movements, everyone maintaining safe distance but staying close enough to keep visual contact. The CB chatter was comforting. The other drivers checked in regularly, sharing information about ice patches, visibility, wind gusts. There was Lead Dog up front, then Hammer Time in second position, Road Warrior in third, Phantom in fourth, and me bringing up the rear. Midnight Runner, you doing okay back there? Lead Dog's voice crackled through. Doing fine, Lead Dog. Thanks for letting me join up. This storm's no joke. That's what we're here for. Nobody drives alone in conditions like this. We look out for each other. Something about his voice was strange, though. There was an echo to it, like he was speaking in a large empty space rather than a truck. Cab. Around mile marker 195, Hammer Time came on the radio. Lead Dog, I'm showing a rest area coming up in 5 miles. Maybe we should pull off, wait this out. Negative, Hammer Time. We keep moving. We're almost through it. Can't stop now. There was something odd about that response. The storm wasn't getting better. If anything, it was getting worse. The wind was howling, and the snow was so thick I could barely make out the lights of the truck in front of me anymore. But I trusted the convoy. They'd been doing this longer than I had, right? We kept driving. Road Warrior to Lead Dog. My GPS is acting strange. Says we should have passed Bozeman 10 minutes ago, but I haven't seen any lights. Electronics get wonky in storms like this. Don't trust your GPS. Trust your eyes. Follow the lights. I glanced at my own GPS. Road Warrior was right. According to the map, we should be approaching Bozeman, but there was nothing out here. No lights from the city, no other traffic, just us and the storm. Lead Dog, this is Midnight Runner. I'm also showing we should be near Bozeman. Maybe we should keep following the lights, Midnight Runner. We know where we're going. Something in his voice made my skin crawl. It wasn't comforting anymore. It was commanding, almost threatening. I looked at my fuel gauge. I'd been driving for almost 6 hours since my last fill-up. I should be down to about a quarter tank, but the gauge showed 3/4 full. That wasn't possible. I checked my odometer. It read 347,852 miles. The same mileage it had read when I left Spokane 8 hours ago. It hadn't moved. Fear started creeping in. Phantom, you still there? I called on the CB. Silence. Road Warrior. Hammer Time. More silence. Then Lead Dog's voice. They're here, Midnight Runner. We're all here, and you're with us now. Just keep following the lights. I stared at the 4 sets of taillights ahead of me, disappearing into the white void of the blizzard. Suddenly, they didn't look like truck lights anymore. They looked like something else. Something wrong. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice shaking. Static. Then, "We're the ones who didn't make it, Midnight Runner. We're the convoy that got caught in the storm of '83. All 5 trucks, all 5 drivers. We kept following the lights, thinking we knew where we were going, but the lights led us off the road, led us into the wilderness. They didn't find us until spring." I slammed on my brakes. My truck shuddered and slid slightly on the ice, but I brought it to a stop. The 4 tail lights ahead of me kept moving, disappearing into the storm. "Come back, Midnight Runner. Don't leave the convoy. You can't make it alone. Come back." I threw my truck into reverse. I didn't care about the company. I didn't care about my schedule. I was getting away from those lights. I backed up for what felt like forever, then carefully turned my truck around. I drove back the way I'd come, ignoring the voice on the CB calling for me, to come back, to rejoin the convoy, to follow the lights. After about 20 minutes, I saw real lights. A rest area. I pulled in and parked, my entire body shaking. There were 3 other trucks parked there, drivers waiting out the storm. I stumbled inside the building looking for coffee or just other human beings. An old driver was standing by the vending machines. He looked at me and frowned. "You okay, son? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I think I did," I said. "I was following a convoy, 4 trucks. They said they were helping me through the storm." His face went pale. "What did they call themselves?" "Lead Dog, Hammer Time, Road Warrior, and Phantom." The old driver sat down heavily on a bench, his coffee forgotten. "Jesus Christ, those were the drivers who died in the blizzard of '83. 5 trucks left Spokane together during a storm, said they'd make it through as a convoy. They got disoriented, followed what they thought was the highway. Ended up 30 miles off course in the wilderness. Froze to death. All 5 of them. There were 4 trucks in front of me," I said quietly. 4 trucks. They wanted me to be the 5th. The old driver looked at me with something like pity mixed with fear. "Every few years, someone reports the same thing. A convoy that appears during storms, offers help, leads you off the road. Most people don't realize what's happening until it's too late. You're lucky you figured it out." I spent that night in the rest area, sleeping in my cab with the doors locked. When dawn came and the storm had passed, I got back on the highway. The road was empty. No sign of any convoy, no tire tracks except my own leading back from where I'd turned around. But as I drove past mile marker 197, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A small memorial marker by the side of the road, half buried in snow. It read, "In memory of the lost convoy, 1983, Lead Dog, Hammer Time, Road Warrior, Phantom, and Midnight Runner. May they rest in peace." Midnight Runner, that had been my CB handle, the same handle as one of the drivers who died. I pulled over and stared at that memorial for a long time, trying to understand. Had I been replacing someone? Had I been driving into my own death, following my own ghost into the storm? I changed my CB handle after that, never used Midnight Runner again. And I never ever join up with convoys during storms anymore, because sometimes the help you think you're getting isn't help at all. Sometimes it's something else. Something that's been waiting in the snow for decades, trying to fill an empty spot in a convoy that should have had 5 trucks, but only ever found 4 bodies. They're still out there, still calling on the CB during storms, still offering safety in numbers. And somewhere out there, they're still looking for their 5th driver. I made sure it wasn't going to be me. My name's Marcus Webb, and I've been running routes through the Southwest for 12 years now. Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. I know those highways like I know my own face in the mirror. Every truck stop, every rest area, every speed trap. I could drive those roads in my sleep, which is why what happened on Highway 60 in Arizona completely shattered my understanding of reality. It was a Tuesday night in September 2022. I was hauling produce from Phoenix to Albuquerque, running my usual route. I'd left Phoenix around 7 p.m., planning to drive through the night and arrive by morning. The highway was mostly empty. Just me, the desert, and the endless stretch of asphalt disappearing into darkness. Around 10 o'clock, I pulled into a truck stop I'd been to 100 times before. Little place called Desert Star Travel Plaza, right off Highway 60 near a town called Dateland. Nothing special about it, just a gas station, a small diner, and a parking area for trucks. But they had good coffee and clean bathrooms, so I stopped there regularly. I pulled in, parked, and headed inside. The place was nearly empty. Just one clerk behind the counter, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and graying hair pulled back in a ponytail. She was reading a magazine and barely looked up when I walked in. I grabbed a coffee and a couple of protein bars, paid, and used the restroom. The whole stop took maybe 15 minutes. Then I was back in my truck and on the road. I drove for exactly 1 hour. I know because I checked my clock when I left. It was 10:14 p.m., and checked it again when I saw the lights of a truck stop ahead. 11:14 p.m. I wasn't planning to stop again so soon, but I needed to check one of my tires. I'd felt a slight wobble about 10 miles back and wanted to make sure I wasn't developing a flat. I pulled into the truck stop parking area. It was Desert Star Travel Plaza. I sat there for a moment, confused. That didn't make sense. I'd just left this place an hour ago. I'd been driving east the whole time, steady at 65 miles per hour. I should be 65 miles from here, not pulling back into the same parking lot. Maybe I'd misread the sign. Maybe this was a different truck stop that just looked similar. But when I walked inside, the same clerk was behind the counter. Same tired eyes, same ponytail, same magazine, open to the same page. She didn't look up when I entered. I approached the counter slowly. "Excuse me, miss." She looked up, no recognition in her eyes. "Help you?" Was I just here about an hour ago?" She shook her head. "Haven't seen you before tonight." "Are you sure? I stopped here around 10, got coffee and some protein bars." "Mister, I've been on shift since 6 p.m. You're the first customer I've had in the last 2 hours." I stared at her. She stared back, polite but clearly thinking I was crazy. I looked around the store. Everything was identical to how it had been an hour ago. Same displays, same flickering fluorescent, light over the coffee station, same country music playing quietly from the speakers. "What's the name of this place?" I asked. "Desert Star Travel Plaza." My hand started shaking. I bought another coffee, needed to see if she'd remember this transaction, and went back to my truck. I checked my GPS. It clearly showed me at the Desert Star Travel Plaza, mile marker 67 on Highway 60. I checked my trip odometer. It showed I'd driven 143 miles since leaving Phoenix. That was right. That was the correct distance. But I'd stopped at this same truck stop at mile marker 67 about an hour ago, and then I'd driven for another hour. I should be at mile marker 132 by now, not back at mile marker 67. I sat in my cab, trying to make sense of it. Maybe I'd fallen asleep while driving. Maybe I'd somehow turned around without realizing it. Maybe I was having some kind of medical episode. But my coffee was still hot from the first stop. It was sitting in my cup holder, exactly where I'd left it. And the receipt from the first transaction was still on my dashboard, timestamp showing 10:11 p.m. I decided to drive again. Maybe I'd figure it out once I got some distance. I pulled back onto Highway 60, heading east. I drove carefully, paying close attention to everything, the mile markers, the landscape, the occasional car passing in the opposite direction. 1 hour later, at exactly 12:14 a.m., I saw lights ahead. Desert Star Travel Plaza. No, this wasn't possible. But I pulled in anyway, my mind reeling. Same parking lot, same building, same flickering sign. I walked inside on shaking legs. The same clerk was behind the counter. Same magazine, same tired expression. "Help you?" she asked, looking up. "Do you remember me?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Should I?" I slammed my hand on the counter and she jumped. "I've been here twice already tonight. I keep driving away and ending up back here. What the hell is going on?" She stared at me like I was insane. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to calm down or leave." I backed away, breathing hard. I looked around the store desperately, looking for something, anything that would be different from the previous 2 visits. Everything was identical. Exactly identical. I ran back to my truck and grabbed my phone. I called my dispatcher. "Marcus, it's after midnight, man. What's wrong?" "Tom, listen to me. I'm stuck. I keep ending up at the same truck stop over and over. I drive for an hour and end up back where I started." Silence on the other end. Then, "Marcus, have you been drinking?" "I'm stone cold sober. I'm telling you, something is wrong. I'm trapped in some kind of loop." Okay. Where are you?" "Desert Star Travel Plaza, Highway 60, mile marker 67. I heard typing. "Marcus, there's no truck stop called Desert Star on Highway 60. Are you sure you read the sign right?" My blood turned to ice. "Tom, I'm standing in the parking lot. I'm looking at the sign right now. It says Desert Star Travel Plaza." More typing. "Marcus, according to every database I can find, there's no truck stop at mile marker 67 on Highway 60. The nearest services are 15 miles in either direction." I looked at the building. The lights were on. The clerk was visible through the window. My receipts from 2 previous stops were on my dashboard. "Tom, I'm looking at it. I'm here." "Marcus, I'm showing your truck's GPS at mile marker 67. But there's nothing there. You're stopped in the middle of nowhere." I walked slowly toward the building, phone still pressed to my ear. As I got closer, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. The magazine the clerk was reading. I could see the cover now. It was dated July 1997, 25 years ago. "Tom," I whispered, "I need you to look something up for me. Desert Star Travel Plaza, Highway 60, Arizona. Tell me if anything happened there." I heard typing. Long silence. Then Tom's voice came back, quieter. "Marcus, there was a place called Desert Star, but it burned down in 1997. Some kind of electrical fire. 1 person died, a clerk who was working alone that night." I stopped walking. I was about 10 feet from the door. Through the window I could see the clerk. She was looking down at her magazine, turning pages. Not reading, just turning pages. The same motion, over and over. "What was the clerk's name, Tom?" Says here it was a Janet Holloway, 43 years old. They found her body after the fire. But Marcus, listen to me. The weird thing is, there were reports afterward. Other truckers saying they'd stopped there, even after it burned down. Saying they'd bought coffee and food. Even had receipts, but when investigators looked into it, the receipts all showed dates and times from the night of the fire. Like the place was stuck in time, repeating the same night over and over. I backed away from the building slowly. "Tom, how do I get out of here?" The reports said most drivers eventually figured out they needed to not stop, to keep driving past, even though it looks like it's there. The ones who kept stopping. Some of them never made it home. I turned and ran back to my truck. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely get the key in the ignition. I pulled out of that parking lot like the devil himself was chasing me. And I drove. I drove past mile marker 68, 69, 70. I kept my eyes on the road, refusing to look back. At mile marker 82, I saw lights ahead, another truck stop. A real one this time, with multiple trucks parked and actual signs of life. I pulled in and almost collapsed with relief. The clerk was a young guy, early 20s, playing on his phone. Real, solid, present. I checked my GPS. I'd finally moved past mile marker 67. But when I got home 3 days later and went through my receipts for expense reports, I found something that still makes my hands shake. I had 3 receipts from Desert Star Travel Plaza, all dated the same night, all time-stamped exactly 1 hour apart, 10:11 p.m., 11:11 p.m., and 12:11 a.m., all signed at the bottom by the clerk, Janet Holloway, all dated July 15, 1997, the night she died. I've driven Highway 60 dozens of times since then. I've never seen Desert Star Travel Plaza again. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm driving through that stretch of desert, I'll see lights in the distance where there shouldn't be any. And I hear a voice on my CB radio crackling through static. Help you? And I keep driving. I don't stop. I don't even slow down. Because some places don't want you to just visit. They want you to stay. Forever. I'm going to tell you something that happened to me 6 months ago, and I still don't understand it. Maybe I never will, but it happened, and it saved my life, and that's all I really know for certain. My name is Jacob Torres, and I haul freight across the Midwest. I'm 34 years old, been trucking for 9 years. I've got a wife, 2 kids, and a mortgage. I'm about as normal and boring as they come. I don't believe in ghosts or psychic phenomena or any of that stuff. But I believe in what happened to me. It was a Thursday night in March, about 2 in the morning. I was driving through Iowa on I-80, heading from Des Moines to Chicago with a load of agricultural equipment. The roads were clear, the weather was fine, and I was making good time. I'd been listening to music on my phone through the truck's speakers, but I'd just gotten to a dead zone with no signal, so the music cut out. I switched over to AM radio, scanning for something to keep me awake. That's when I heard it. My own voice. It was coming through the CB radio, which was strange because I hadn't touched it, but it was definitely my voice. Same cadence, same slight accent from growing up in South Texas. Same everything. Jacob, listen to me carefully. In exactly 3 minutes, a deer is going to run across the highway. You're going to swerve left to avoid it. Don't hit the deer. Because if you swerve left, you're going to cross into oncoming traffic and hit a car. A family of 4. You're going to kill all of them and yourself. Hit the deer. My heart was hammering. I grabbed the CB handset. Who is this? How are you doing this? The voice, my voice, continued like it hadn't heard me. You need to slow down right now. Get your speed down to 45. When you see the deer, do not swerve. I know every instinct will tell you to avoid it. Don't listen. Hit the deer. It's the only way. I stared at the radio, my hands shaking. This had to be some kind of prank. Maybe another trucker who could imitate voices, or some kind of recording software. But how would they know my name? Jacob, please. I know this sounds insane, but you have to trust me. Slow down. 3 minutes. I don't know why I listened. Maybe it was the desperation in the voice, in my voice. Maybe it was some instinct I can't explain. But I eased off the accelerator and brought my speed down from 65 to 45. That's good, Jacob. Keep that speed. 2 minutes now. The deer will come from the right side. It's a doe. You're going to see it at the last second. Do not swerve left. Do not hit the deer. I was gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white. I was watching the right side of the road like my life depended on it. Which, apparently, it did. 30 seconds, Jacob. Get ready. I saw movement in my peripheral vision. A flash of brown in my headlights. The deer bounded out from the ditch on the right side of the highway, directly into my path. Every instinct I had screamed at me to swerve. I'm not a cruel person. I don't want to hit animals. And my reflexes were already responding, my hands starting to turn the wheel left. but I heard my own voice shouting from the CB, "Hit the deer!" I forced my hands to stay straight. I braced for impact. The deer hit my front bumper with a sickening crunch. My truck shuddered but kept moving forward. I saw the animal tumble away in my side mirror, motionless on the shoulder. And then, half a second later, a car came around the curve ahead of me in the opposite lane. If I had swerved left, I would have been directly in that car's path. Head-on collision, at highway speeds. The car passed me harmlessly, the driver probably not even noticing how close they'd come to disaster. I pulled over onto the shoulder about 100 yards down the road. I was shaking uncontrollably. I put the truck in park and just sat there, trying to breathe. The CB crackled to life again. "You're okay, Jacob. You did it. You're okay." I grabbed the handset with trembling hands. "Who are you? How did you know that was going to happen?" Silence. Then, "I'm you, Jacob. I'm you from the timeline where you swerved, where you killed that family and yourself, where your kids grew up without a father, where your wife had to bury you and explain to your children why Daddy wasn't coming home." "That's not possible," I whispered. "It happened, Jacob. It happened 3 hours ago. 3 hours from now. Time is complicated. But I died tonight. We died. And somehow I got a chance to reach back and change it. To warn you, and you listened. Thank God you listened. I don't understand. How? You don't need to understand. It's done. You're alive. That family is alive. That's all that matters. What happens to you? To the other me?" Long silence. Then quietly, "I don't know. Maybe this timeline replaces mine. Maybe I just stop. But if that's the price for keeping you alive, for keeping our family together, I'll pay it gladly." Tears were running down my face. I don't know what to say. Just go home, Jacob. Hug Emily and the kids. Don't take any of it for granted. Every extra moment you get is a gift. Make it count. The radio went silent. I sat there for another 20 minutes, trying to process what had happened. Eventually, I got back on the road. I drove carefully, slowly, and I made it to Chicago by dawn. I called Emily as soon as I got to the delivery point. She was surprised. I usually didn't call that early, not wanting to wake her and the kids before school. "Jake, everything okay?" "Everything's fine," I said, my voice thick with emotion. I needed to hear your voice. I love you. I love you so much." She laughed softly. "I love you too, weirdo. Are you sure you're okay?" "Yeah, I'm perfect. Give the kids a hug from me." "I will. Drive safe, okay?" "I will." I hung up and sat in my truck, watching the sun rise over Chicago. That night when I got home, I held my family like I'd never held them before. Emily kept asking if I was sure I was okay, and I kept saying yes, but I couldn't let them go. Because somewhere, in a timeline that doesn't exist anymore, I died that night. My kids grew up without me. Emily had to be both mother and father. I missed birthdays and graduations and everything else, but somehow, impossibly, I got a second chance. A version of me that loved his family so much that even death couldn't stop him from trying to save them, to save the life we built together. I've thought about that night every day since. I've tried to make sense of it. But maybe some things don't make sense. Maybe some things you just have to accept and be grateful for. I'm still trucking, still driving the same routes, but I drive more carefully now. I appreciate every moment more. And sometimes, late at night when I'm alone on the highway, I talk into my CB radio. "Thank you," I say into the darkness. "Whoever or wherever you are. Thank you." I never get a response, but I think somehow that other me knows, that version of myself who died so I could live, who loved our family enough to reach across death itself and save us. I carry him with me every day. Every moment I have with my wife and kids I have because of him, because of me. I still don't understand it, but I'll spend the rest of my life being worthy of that sacrifice. I promise. My name's Raymond Clark, but everyone calls me Ray. I've been driving trucks for over 20 years, mostly running routes through the Pacific Northwest. Oregon, Washington, Northern California, that's my territory. Beautiful country, if you don't mind the rain and the fog and the endless trees. But there are parts of that territory I don't go anymore. Not since what happened in the Cascade Mountains in November of 2018. I was hauling timber from a mill in Bend, Oregon, to a processing plant in Seattle. It's a route I'd driven probably 200 times before. You take Highway 20 through the Cascades, winding mountain roads, steep grades, and some of the most beautiful and desolate landscape you'll ever see. It was late afternoon when I started the mountain pass. The sun was already setting behind the peaks, and fog was rolling in. I should have waited. Should have stayed in Bend overnight and made the drive in daylight. But I was trying to make a delivery deadline, and I thought I could beat the weather. About an hour into the mountains, my cell phone lost signal. That was normal. There are huge dead zones in the Cascades where you can't get any signal at all. I'd be out of contact for probably 2 hours until I came down the other side. The CB radio was quiet. I hadn't heard another trucker in over 30 miles. Most drivers avoid Highway 20 in winter weather. Too dangerous, too isolated. Smart drivers, unlike me. The fog got thicker as I climbed higher. My headlights barely penetrated 10 feet ahead. I slowed to a crawl, following the white line at the edge of the road, trying not to think about the sheer drop-offs on the passenger side. That's when my CB radio crackled to life. "Help! Please! Anyone!" A woman's voice, broken and distorted by static. But not just static. There was something else underneath it. A sound like wind or maybe screaming. I picked up the handset immediately. "This is Ray on Highway 20. I hear you. What's your situation?" "I'm lost. My car broke down. I don't know where I am. It's so dark." "Okay, stay calm. Are you in a vehicle? Can you describe your location?" "I'm in my car. It's so cold. I walked for help, but I can't find the road anymore. There's something out here. I can hear it moving." My skin prickled. "You need to get back to your car if you can. Lock yourself in. I'll call for help as soon as I get signal." "Please hurry. I'm so scared. It's getting closer." "What's getting closer? What do you see?" No response. Just static. "Hello? Can you hear me?" The static continued, but underneath it, I thought I heard breathing, heavy, ragged breathing, and then, very faintly, a scream, then nothing. The radio went silent. I tried calling back, but there was no response. I kept driving, faster than I should have in the fog, desperate to get to a point where I could call for help. A woman was out there in the freezing darkness, possibly injured, possibly in danger. About 20 minutes later, the radio crackled again. "Help! Please! Anyone!" The same voice, the same words, exactly the same inflection. "I hear you. I'm still here. Tell me where you are." "I'm lost. My car broke down. I don't know where I am. It's so dark." Word for word identical to the first transmission. A cold feeling settled over me. "What's your name?" I asked. "I'm in my car. It's so cold. I walked for help, but I can't find the road anymore. There's something out here. I can hear it moving." She wasn't responding to my questions. She was just repeating the same script like a recording. "Please hurry. I'm so scared. It's getting closer." "What's getting closer? Hello?" Static. Breathing. A scream. Silence. I sat there, hands shaking on the wheel. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. It was just a weird radio phenomenon, signals bouncing off the mountains, maybe an old transmission from years ago somehow repeating. but I couldn't shake the terror in that woman's voice. The transmission repeated again 20 minutes later, exactly the same, and 20 minutes after that, and again, like clockwork. Each time I tried to respond, tried to get information, tried to help. But it was just a loop, playing over and over. After the 5th repetition, I was nearly off the mountain. The fog was lifting and I could see lights in the distance. The small town of Sisters on the eastern slope. I'd have cell signal soon. I could call highway patrol, report the transmission. That's when the voice changed. Ray. Ray Clark. I know you can hear me. My blood turned to ice. It wasn't the woman's voice anymore. It was something else. Something that sounded almost human, but not quite. Like someone who'd learned to speak, but had never actually been human. Ray, you're listening to a recording from 7 years ago. November 2011. A woman named Sarah Mitchell. She went off the road in a storm, walked away from her car, got lost in the fog. She was calling for help on her CB radio, but no one came. I stared at the radio, unable to speak. They found her body 3 months later, miles from the highway, frozen, but her face... Ray, her face was wrong. Like something had tried to wear it, like something had peeled it off and put it on. Stop, I whispered. She wasn't alone out there, Ray. There's something in those mountains, something old, something that hears the voices of the lost and afraid. Something that comes when you call. Stop. And every year, on the anniversary of her death, her voice repeats over the CB, calling, asking for help. And sometimes, Ray, sometimes someone answers. Sometimes someone like you hears the call and tries to help. And the thing in the mountains, it hears your voice too, and it knows you're coming. I looked out my window at the dark forest sliding past. The fog swirled between the trees, and for just a moment I thought I saw something moving out there. Something, tall and thin, that moved wrong, joints bending in directions they shouldn't. It's been following you, Ray, ever since you first answered. It's right outside your truck. It's been keeping pace with you for miles. I looked at my side mirror. In the fog, I saw a shape, tall, moving alongside my truck, keeping perfect pace. Don't stop, Ray. Don't slow down. Don't look directly at it. Just drive. Drive until you're out of the mountains, and never come back. What is it? I asked, my voice barely audible. It wears the faces of the lost. It calls in their voices, and if you stop, if you try to help, it will wear your face too, and your voice will be the next one calling over the CB, begging for help that never comes. The shape in the mirror moved closer. I could almost make out details, long limbs, a head that tilted at an unnatural angle, something like fingers but with too many joints. I pressed my foot down on the accelerator. The truck surged forward, speedometer climbing despite the curves and the fog. The shape fell behind, or maybe it just let me go. The voice on the CB spoke one last time. November 14th, Ray. That's when she died. That's when it hunts. Stay off Highway 20 on November 14th. Stay off, or your voice will join hers in the static. The radio went silent. I drove straight through to Seattle without stopping. When I finally reached civilization, I pulled over at a truck stop and looked up Sarah Mitchell on my phone. She was real. A 28-year-old woman from Portland. Went missing on Highway 20 in November 2011. Body found 3 months later. Cause of death. Exposure. But there was one detail in the news article that made my blood run cold. The article mentioned that search and rescue teams reported finding her body in an unusual state. Her face, according to one source who spoke off the record, had been removed and replaced, like someone had worn it and put it back wrong. I've driven through the Cascades dozens of times since then, but never on Highway 20 and never on November 14th, because some calls for help aren't meant to be answered. Some voices in the static are warnings, not requests, and some things in the mountains are older than roads, older than CB radios, older than humans. They're just waiting for the lost and the afraid, waiting to add another voice to their collection. I need to tell you about something that happened last year. I'm still trying to make sense of it, and honestly, I don't think I ever will. But it happened, and I can't stop thinking about it. My name is Derek Hammond, and I've been driving for a freight company called Cascade Logistics for 6 years. It's a decent operation. They treat their drivers well, pay on time, maintain the equipment, and dispatch is always professional, always looking out for you. Or at least that's what I thought. The company's main dispatcher was a guy named Carl Morrison. He'd been with Cascade for over 20 years. Everyone knew Carl. His voice was as familiar to us drivers as our own families. He'd check in with us, make sure we were okay, adjust routes if we ran into problems. He was good people. On February 3rd, 2024, I got a call from company headquarters. I was at a truck stop in Idaho, just starting my shift for a haul to Denver. "Derek, this is Jennifer from HR. I have some bad news. Carl Morrison passed away yesterday evening. Heart attack. We wanted to let all the drivers know." I was shocked. Carl was only 57, seemed healthy, but I guess you never really know. Jesus, I'm sorry to hear that. He was a good man. He was. The funeral is Saturday, if you're able to make it back. We'll have a replacement dispatcher starting tomorrow, but things might be a little disorganized during the transition. Understood. Thanks for letting me know. I hung up and sat in my cab for a while, processing. Carl had helped me out of some tough situations over the years. He'd been a constant, reliable voice over the radio. It was hard to imagine him being gone. I started my route around 8 p.m. heading south on I-15. The weather was clear, the road was good, and I made decent time. Around 11, as I was crossing into Utah, my company radio crackled to life. "Unit 7-2, this is dispatch. Come in, 7-2. I recognized the voice immediately. It was Carl. I stared at the radio, my mind refusing to process what I'd just heard. It couldn't be Carl. Carl was dead. They just told me he was dead. "Unit 7-2, this is dispatch. Derek, you there?" Same voice, same cadence, same everything. With shaking hands, I picked up the radio. "This is Unit 7-2. Who is this?" "It's Carl, Derek. Just checking in. How's the road treating you?" "Carl's dead," I said flatly. "They called me this morning. Heart attack." Silence. Then, "Derek, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm right here at dispatch. Are you feeling okay? Maybe you should pull over for a bit." "This isn't funny. Who is this really?" "Derek, it's Carl Morrison. I've been your dispatcher for 6 years. What's going on?" I felt like I was losing my mind. The voice was perfect. The mannerisms, the way he said my name, everything. If someone was impersonating Carl, they were doing an impossibly perfect job. "What day is it?" I asked. "February 3rd, 2024. Derek, seriously, you're worrying me. You need to pull over?" "What time?" "It's 11:17 p.m. Derek, you died yesterday," I said. "February 2nd, heart attack. They told me this morning." Long silence. When Carl's voice came back, it sounded different, uncertain. "Derek, I don't understand what you're saying. Where are you right now? What does the dispatch office look like?" "I'm at my desk. Computer, 3 monitors, coffee that's gone cold. Same as always." "Look outside. What do you see?" Pause. "It's dark. Parking lot. The lights are on. Are there any other people there?" Longer pause. No, I guess everyone else went home. Late shift tonight?" "Carl, when's the last time you remember seeing someone else in the office?" Very long pause. I I don't know. I've been at my desk. Monitoring routes, same as always. How long have you been there? I don't... What do you mean? How many hours have you been at your desk, Carl? Silence. I could hear static, and underneath it, something that might have been breathing. I don't remember, Carl finally said, and his voice was shaking. Derek, I don't remember. I came in from my shift and I've been working and I don't remember anything else. What's happening to me? My skin was covered in goosebumps. Carl, I think you need to leave that office. I think you need to get out of there right now. Why? Derek, why are you saying that? Because you're not in the office, Carl. You can't be. You died. No, I'm right here. I'm at my desk. I'm looking at my monitors. I can see your truck's GPS position. You're on I-15 southbound, just past exit 394. He was right. I'd just passed that exit. Carl, please listen to me. Something's wrong. You need to look around. Really look. Tell me everything you see. I heard movement, like he was standing up. Footsteps, then Carl's voice, much quieter. Derek, the windows are wrong. What do you mean? They're not showing the parking lot anymore. They're showing darkness. Just darkness, like there's nothing outside. Carl. And the door to the hallway. I can see light under it, but when I look at it, Derek, there are shadows moving under the door. Lots of them, moving back and forth. But I can't hear any footsteps. Don't open that door, I said urgently. Carl, do not open that door. Where am I? His voice was panicked now. Derek, where am I? This isn't the office. This looks like the office, but it's not. I can feel it. It's wrong. Everything's wrong. I don't know where you are, but you need to find a way out. I'm scared, Derek. I'm really scared. What happened to me? I didn't know what to say. How do you tell someone they're dead? How do you explain something you don't understand yourself? Carl, do you remember anything about yesterday? February 2nd? I was at work. Normal day. I was talking to you, actually. You called in from that truck stop in Idaho, remember? Said you were starting your run to Denver. That was today. Carl, that was this morning. No, that was yesterday. I remember because after you called I felt strange. Chest pains. I thought it was just heartburn. I took some antacid. And then I remember. He trailed off. What do you remember? Falling. I remember falling and darkness. And then I was back at my desk and it was time for the night shift and I've been here ever since, monitoring routes, checking in with drivers. Like always. But Derek, how long have I been here? I don't know. The shadows under the door, they're moving faster. And I can hear something now. Voices, lots of voices. They're calling my name. Don't answer them, I said. Carl, don't. They sound like me, he interrupted. Derek, they all sound like me, like my voice, but from different times. Younger, older, scared, angry. They're all me. Carl, I think I understand now, he said quietly. This isn't the dispatch office. This is somewhere else. Somewhere I'm stuck. I'm not monitoring routes. I'm trying to work because that's all I know how to do. I'm trying to be useful because I can't accept that I'm not there anymore. Tears were running down my face. I'm sorry, Carl. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Derek. It's okay. I think I need to open that door now. I need to see what's on the other side. What if it's bad? What if... It can't be worse than this. Being stuck, not understanding. I need to know. Carl, wait. But I heard footsteps, a door opening, and then Carl's voice, filled with something that sounded like wonder. Oh, I see. It's not darkness, it's... Derek, I can't explain it, but it's okay. It's going to be okay. Carl, thank you for talking to me. Thank you for helping me understand. I can go now. I can finally go. Carl, wait. but the radio went silent. I tried calling back, but there was no response. Just empty static. I drove the rest of the way to Denver in a daze. When I got to the depot, I went straight to the manager's office. "The dispatcher last night. Who was on duty?" He looked at his schedule. "Last night? That would have been Michelle. She covered Carl's shift. Why?" "I talked to Carl on the company radio. Around 11 p.m. The manager's face went pale. "Derek, that's not possible. Carl died the night before. And our radio systems were completely offline last night. Power surge knocked them out. We're only just getting them back online now." I showed him my truck's communication logs. There was no record of any transmission from dispatch. Nothing at all, but I know what I heard. I know who I talked to. Carl had died at his desk, doing the job he loved, and somehow some part of him had stayed behind, not understanding that he was gone. Still trying to watch over his drivers, still trying to do his job, until I helped him understand, until I helped him let go. The funeral was that Saturday. I went. I said goodbye to a man I'd already said goodbye to once before, in a conversation that shouldn't have been possible. But here's the thing that still haunts me. I wasn't the only driver who reported talking to Carl that night. 3 other truckers said they'd received check-in calls from dispatch, from Carl's voice, all at different times, all having similar conversations. Carl helping them understand that he was gone. Carl saying goodbye. Maybe some people care so much about their work, about the people they're responsible for, that even death can't stop them from checking in one last time. Maybe some goodbyes take longer than others. I still think about him. Every time I hear the dispatcher's voice over the radio, there's a moment where I expect it to be Carl, where I hope it's Carl, but it never is. And I guess that's okay, because he finally got to go where he needed to go. He just needed a little help understanding first. My name is Thomas Reeves, and for the past 11 years, I've been hauling freight across the southern United States. Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. That's my usual territory. Long, flat highways, oppressive heat, and roadside barbecue joints that'll change your life. But what happened in Louisiana in August of 2023 changed my life in a very different way. I was driving east on I-10, hauling a load of construction materials from Houston to Mobile. It was around 3 in the morning, and the highway was nearly empty. Just me, the darkness, and the humid Louisiana air that made everything feel thick and heavy. I'd been listening to talk radio to stay awake, but the station had started to fade as I drove further from Houston. I was reaching to change the channel when every speaker in my truck suddenly erupted with a piercing, high-pitched tone. The emergency broadcast signal. I'd heard it before during tests, but never at full volume like this. I grabbed for the radio to turn it down, but before I could, the tone stopped and a robotic voice began speaking. "This is an emergency broadcast from the National Weather Service. A catastrophic weather event is currently developing in your area. All residents and travelers in Lafayette Parish, Louisiana, are advised to seek immediate shelter. Do not attempt to travel. Do not go outside. Remain indoors until further notice." I glanced at my GPS. I was about 20 miles outside Lafayette. I looked out my windshield at the night sky. It was clear. Stars were visible. No clouds, no wind, nothing that suggested any kind of weather event. The broadcast continued. "This is not a test. Catastrophic conditions are imminent. Seek shelter immediately. Do not attempt to travel. Do not look outside. Close all windows and curtains. Remain indoors until official notice is given that conditions are safe. Do not look outside." That was a strange instruction for a weather alert. I slowed my truck slightly, scanning the sky for any sign of a storm. Nothing. The night was perfectly calm. The broadcast started over, repeating the same message, same robotic voice, same instructions. And then it changed. Thomas Reeves, driver of Unit 774. This message is for you. Do not proceed to Lafayette. Exit the highway at the next available exit. Drive south. Do not stop until you reach Bayou Vista. Do not question these instructions. Your life depends on immediate compliance. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. The broadcast had just used my name, my unit number. That wasn't possible. Emergency broadcasts don't target specific people. This is not a test, Thomas. You have approximately 7 minutes to exit the highway. If you proceed to Lafayette, you will not survive the night. Exit immediately. I looked at the road ahead. The next exit was 3 miles away, according to the signs. What the hell is this? I said out loud, to no one. The robotic voice responded. This is an emergency broadcast. You have 6 minutes and 30 seconds to exit the highway. Do not deviate from these instructions. Okay, this was way beyond weird. This was impossible. Emergency broadcasts can't hear you. They can't respond. They're pre-recorded warnings, not interactive conversations. But something in my gut, some instinct I couldn't name, told me to listen. I took the next exit, a small ramp that led to a 2-lane road heading south. According to my GPS, Bayou Vista was about 15 miles away. It was a tiny community on the edge of a swamp. I'd never been there, had no reason to go there. But I drove. The broadcast continued in my truck's speakers. Good, Thomas. Maintain current heading. Drive at safe speed. Do not stop. Do not deviate. Who are you? I demanded. How are you doing this? Continue south, 13 miles to safety. Answer me. Who the hell is this? Silence. Then, you are currently traveling through an area experiencing a temporal anomaly. Standard laws of causality are temporarily suspended. What appears safe is not safe. What appears calm will not remain calm. Continue south. Temporal anomaly. What does that even mean? Approximately 4 minutes ago in your reference frame, but 3 hours in the future from your perspective, Interstate 10 near Lafayette ceased to exist. The cause is not relevant to your immediate survival. What is relevant is that you must not be on that highway when the causal loop resolves. Continue south. I felt like I was losing my mind. None of this made any sense. But I kept driving. Behind me, back toward the interstate, I saw a flash of light, bright, white like lightning, but somehow wrong. It didn't illuminate the clouds because there were no clouds. It came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Do not look back, Thomas. Continue south, 9 miles to safety. I couldn't help it. I looked in my side mirror. The sky behind me was wrong. It wasn't dark anymore. It was a color I can't describe. Something between purple and green and black, but none of those at the same time. And it was moving, roiling like boiling water, spreading across the horizon. Eyes forward, Thomas. Do not observe the phenomenon directly. Human perception can accelerate causal collapse. Continue south. I faced forward, heart hammering. What is that? What's happening? Continue south. 7 miles to safety. Answer me. In the timeline you departed, you continued on Interstate 10. You entered Lafayette at 3:17 a.m. At 3:18 a.m., localized reality experienced catastrophic coherence failure. You and everyone within a 15-mile radius ceased to exist in all possible timelines simultaneously. This is one of several outcomes we are attempting to prevent. We? Who is we? Continue south, 5 miles to safety. I drove faster, pushing my truck to speeds it shouldn't go on these narrow back roads. The strange light behind me was getting brighter, even though I was driving away from it. Thomas, you are approaching Bayou Vista. When you arrive, park your vehicle near the old church on Riverside Road. Exit your vehicle and enter the church. Wait inside until dawn. Do not leave. Do not open the doors for any reason, regardless of what you hear. What will I hear? Continue south, 2 miles to safety. I saw lights ahead. Small lights from a few scattered buildings. Bayou Vista. I'd never been so relieved to see civilization. Following the GPS and the occasional road sign, I found Riverside Road. And there, at the end of a gravel drive, was an old white church, paint peeling, windows dark. I parked my truck and sat there for a moment, hands shaking. Exit your vehicle, Thomas. Enter the church. You have approximately 90 seconds before local conditions become unsafe. I didn't hesitate. I jumped out of my cab and ran to the church. The door was unlocked. I pulled it open and stumbled inside. The interior was dark, but not abandoned. There were candles lit on the altar and wooden pews that looked recently used. It smelled like dust and old wood and something else. Something like ozone after a lightning strike. I heard my truck's radio through the open door. One last message. You are safe, Thomas. Remain inside until dawn. Do not open the doors. Do not look outside. Then the radio went silent. I stood in the doorway, looking out at my truck, at the empty road, at the night sky that was growing stranger by the second. And then I saw them. Figures. Walking down the road toward the church. Dozens of them. They looked like people at first, men, women, different heights, different builds. But as they got closer, I realized they were all moving in perfect synchronization. Same stride length, same pace, same mechanical precision, and their faces. God, their faces. They were blank. Not featureless, but like someone had erased the details. Where there should have been eyes, nose, mouth, there was just smooth skin, the color of old paper. They stopped about 20 feet from the church, standing in a perfect line across the road. All of them facing the church, facing me. I slammed the door and locked it. For the next 4 hours, I sat in that church, listening to sounds outside that I can't adequately describe. Footsteps that came from above and below simultaneously. Voices that spoke in frequencies that made my teeth hurt. Scratching at the windows that came from the inside and outside of the glass at the same time. I didn't look. I didn't open the door. I just sat in a pew shaking, praying to a God I'd never particularly believed in. As dawn broke, the sound stopped. I waited another 30 minutes, then carefully opened the church door. The figures were gone. The strange light in the sky had faded. Everything looked normal. My truck was where I'd left it, undamaged. I walked back to my truck on shaking legs and climbed inside. I turned on the radio, half expecting another message. Nothing. Just normal morning talk radio from a Baton Rouge station. I drove back to I-10 and continued east. When I reached the section of highway near Lafayette, I saw emergency vehicles everywhere. Fire trucks, police, ambulances, and in the distance I could see a section of the highway that looked wrong. The asphalt was warped, twisted into impossible shapes. Like reality had glitched. I kept driving. When I got to Mobile, I searched online for what had happened. The official story was a gas main explosion near the highway. Several casualties. Section of I-10 closed for repairs. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. Someone or something had warned me, had told me exactly where to go to survive something that shouldn't be possible. I've driven through Louisiana dozens of times since then. I always take I-10 through Lafayette. It's been repaired, looks completely normal. But sometimes, late at night, my radio will crackle with static. And underneath that static, I'll hear something that sounds like a robotic voice, giving warnings to other travelers. Warnings about things that haven't happened yet but might. Warnings from something that exists outside time, watching for catastrophes, trying to save the people it can reach. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it helped me. But I'm grateful. Because in another timeline, in the timeline I was supposed to follow, I died on Interstate 10 in August 2023. I ceased to exist in all possible timelines simultaneously, but somehow, impossibly, I was given a chance to step out of that timeline and into this one. And every day since then has been a gift I never should have received. I don't waste it. I've been a trucker for 15 years, and I've seen a lot of weird stuff on the road. But nothing compares to the haul I did in October of 2021. It was supposed to be a simple job. Pick up a load in rural Arkansas and deliver it to a warehouse in Tennessee. No big deal, right? Wrong. My name is Kevin Marsh, and I'm about to tell you about the night I delivered cargo that didn't exist and received dispatch instructions from a voice that couldn't have been real. It started with a call from my company dispatch. This was around noon on October 12th. I was in Little Rock, just finishing up a delivery, when my phone rang. "Kevin, this is Jerry from dispatch. Got a last-minute job for you if you're interested. Good money, easy haul." Jerry was my regular dispatcher. Been working with him for years. His voice was instantly recognizable. "Sure, Jerry. What's the job?" "Pickup in Calico Rock, Arkansas. Small manufacturing facility. They've got a single crate, approximately 800 pounds. Needs to go to Memphis. They're paying premium for immediate delivery." "What's in the crate?" "Manifest says machine parts. Manufacturing equipment. Nothing unusual." "Sounds easy enough. Send me the address." "Will do. And Kevin, they specified they need delivery between midnight and 3 a.m. No earlier, no later. Can you make that work?" That was unusual, but not unheard of. Sometimes factories have specific receiving hours based on shift schedules. "Yeah, I can make it work. I'll head to Calico Rock now. Should have plenty of time." "Great. I'll send the pickup address and the Memphis delivery location to your GPS. Thanks, Kevin." He hung up, and I received the addresses a moment later. The pickup location was a place called Riverside Manufacturing, about 2 hours north of Little Rock. The delivery address was a warehouse in an industrial area of Memphis. I headed out around 1 p.m., making good time on the back roads through the Ozark foothills. Calico Rock was a tiny town, population maybe 2,000, nestled along the White River. The manufacturing facility was on the outskirts, a squat metal building with no signs, no company name visible, just an address number on the door. I pulled into the lot around 3:30 p.m. The place looked deserted. No cars in the parking lot, no lights visible in the windows. I walked up to the main entrance and knocked. No answer. I tried the door. Locked. I walked around the building, looking for another entrance or any sign of life. Nothing. The place looked like it had been closed for years, weeds growing through cracks in the pavement, rust on the door handles, windows covered in dust. I called Jerry. "Hey, I'm at the pickup location in Calico Rock, but there's nobody here. Place looks abandoned." "That's weird. Let me check the work order." I heard typing. "Okay, the order came through this morning. Riverside Manufacturing. They confirmed the pickup for today." "Jerry, I'm telling you, this place is closed. Might have been closed for years." More typing. "Kevin, I'm looking at our system. The order is right here. They paid a deposit. Everything's legit. Maybe try round back. Sometimes these small operations have weird setups." I walked around to the back of the building. There was a loading dock with a roll-up door. And on the loading dock, sitting alone, was a wooden crate. It was about 4 feet on each side, strapped with metal bands, marked with fragile and handle with care. Labels. A shipping manifest was attached to one side in a plastic sleeve, but there was nobody around. No forklift, no workers, just this crate sitting there like it had been waiting for me. "Jerry, I found the crate. But there's still nobody here. This whole thing feels off." "Is the manifest attached?" I checked. "Yeah." "Does it match the weight and dimensions we were given?" I looked at the manifest. £800, machine part. Delivery to Memphis between midnight and 3 a.m. It matches. Then load it up. Sometimes these small operations work weird hours. Maybe they dropped it off for you and left. Something felt wrong about this, but I couldn't articulate what. The job was legit. The crate was there. The paperwork matched. I backed my truck up to the loading dock and used my lift gate to get the crate onto my truck. It was heavy, but not unusually so for £800. As I was securing it with straps, I noticed something strange. The crate was cold. Not just cool, but actually cold, like it had been refrigerated, but there was no indication on the manifest that it needed climate control. I touched the wood. It was ice cold, and my fingers almost stuck to it, like touching metal in winter. I pulled my hand back and finished securing it quickly. Then I got in my cab and started driving toward Memphis. It was about a 5-hour drive under normal conditions. That would put me in Memphis around 9 p.m., plenty of time before the midnight to 3 a.m. delivery window. About an hour into the drive, as the sun was starting to set, my CB radio crackled to life. "Unit 429, this is dispatch. Come in." I picked up the handset. "This is 429. Go ahead, dispatch." "Kevin, this is Jerry. Need you to make a route adjustment. Don't take the interstate. Take Highway 14 instead, through the rural roads." That was odd. Highway 14 would add at least an hour to my trip, maybe more. "Jerry, that'll put me way behind schedule." "Why the route change?" "Weather conditions on the interstate. Bad storms. Highway 14 is clear." I looked at my weather app. No storms anywhere in the area. Clear skies all the way to Memphis. "Jerry, my weather shows clear skies. Are you sure about this?" "Take Highway 14, Kevin. It's important." Something in his voice sounded off. It was Jerry's voice, but the cadence was wrong. The phrasing was slightly off. "Jerry, what's going on? This doesn't feel right." "Just follow the route I'm sending you, Kevin. Trust me." My GPS pinged with a new route. Highway 14 through isolated rural areas, adding 90 minutes to my trip. "Jerry, I'm going to call you on the regular phone. Something's weird about this CB transmission." "Don't bother, Kevin. Phone lines are down due to the storm. Just follow the route." But my phone showed full bars, and there was no storm. "Who is this really?" I asked. Silence. Then, "You already picked up the cargo, Kevin. You already agreed to transport it. You don't have a choice now. Follow the route." A chill ran down my spine. "What's in the crate?" "Follow the route, Kevin. Deliver it between midnight and 3 a.m. If you deviate, if you stop, if you try to look inside the crate, there will be consequences." "Consequences? Are you threatening me?" The voice that came through the CB next wasn't Jerry's anymore. It was something else, something that sounded like multiple voices speaking in unison. "You were chosen for this delivery. The cargo must reach its destination. Follow the route. Complete the delivery. Do not look inside. Do not stop." I slammed the handset back onto the receiver and immediately grabbed my phone to call Jerry directly. No signal. My phone, which had shown full bars a minute ago, now showed no service. I looked at my GPS. It was still showing the route change, Highway 14 through rural Arkansas. And then I heard something from the cargo area behind my cab. A sound like scratching, like something inside the crate was trying to get out. I pulled over to the side of the road, heart hammering. I sat there for a moment, trying to decide what to do. The scratching got louder, and then I heard something else. A voice, muffled, coming from inside the crate. "Help me, please let me out. It's so dark in here." My blood turned to ice. There was someone inside that crate. I jumped out of my cab and ran to the back of my truck. The crate was there, strapped down, unchanged. But I could hear the voice clearly now. "Please, help me. I can't breathe. Let me out." I grabbed a crowbar from my toolkit. I didn't care about consequences anymore. If someone was trapped in there, I had to get them out. I positioned the crowbar to pry off one of the wooden panels, and then my CB radio, still on in my cab, erupted with that multi-voice again, loud enough to hear from outside the truck. "Do not open the crate." I hesitated. The voice inside the crate continued pleading, "Please, please help me. I'm dying in here." But something about it sounded wrong. The pleading was too perfect, too calculated, like it was saying exactly what it thought I wanted to hear. "Who are you?" I called out. The voice changed, became angry. "Let me out! Let me out! Let me out now!" The scratching turned to pounding. The entire crate shook with the impact, but the wood didn't crack, didn't splinter. It was like the crate was stronger than it should be. I backed away slowly, then ran to my cab and got inside, locking the doors. The pounding continued for about 5 minutes, then stopped. My CB crackled. "Continue to Memphis. Kevin, follow Highway 14. Deliver the cargo. Do not open it. This is your only warning." I sat there, shaking. Every instinct told me to abandon the truck and call the police, but my phone still had no signal, and I was on a deserted stretch of road with no other traffic. I made a decision. I would drive to the nearest town, find a police station, and let them deal with this. I started my truck and pulled back onto the road. But instead of following Highway 14, I headed toward the closest town according to my GPS, a place called Harriet, about 15 miles east. The moment I deviated from the route, my truck's engine started sputtering. The check engine light came on. The temperature gauge spiked. The steering became difficult, and my CB radio came to life. "Return to the assigned route, Kevin." "I'm not delivering that thing," I said out loud. "I don't know what it is, but I'm not taking it anywhere." "You don't have a choice. Your truck will not function properly unless you follow the assigned route. Return now." The engine coughed and died. I coasted to a stop on the side of the road. I tried to restart it. Nothing. Completely dead. I sat there in the darkness, miles from anywhere, with whatever was in that crate just a few feet behind me. My CB crackled again. "Last chance, Kevin. Agree to complete the delivery, and your truck will function. Refuse, and you'll stay here, in the dark, with the cargo, all night." I thought about my options. I could refuse and wait for help, but help might not come until morning, and I'd be alone with that thing all night. Or I could agree, complete the delivery, and get away from this nightmare. "If I deliver it, will you let me go?" I asked. "Complete the delivery." Exactly as instructed. "Memphis, between midnight and 3 a.m. Then your obligation ends." "Promise." "We don't make promises, but we keep our bargains." I had no good choices. "Fine, I'll deliver it." My truck's engine immediately roared back to life. All the warning lights went off. Everything functioned perfectly. I drove through the night, following Highway 14 through isolated rural areas. I didn't hear anything else from the crate. Didn't hear the voice. Didn't hear scratching. Just silence. I reached the Memphis delivery address at 12:47 a.m. It was a warehouse in an industrial area, surrounded by chain-link fence. The gate was open. The building was dark. I backed up to the loading dock as instructed. The moment my truck stopped, the roll-up door of the warehouse opened. But there was nobody there. Just darkness inside. A voice came from inside the building, the same multi-voice that had been on my CB. "Leave the cargo on the dock. Drive away. Do not look back. Your obligation is complete." I got out and used my lift gate to unload the crate onto the dock. It was still cold, still covered with that unsettling frost. The moment it touched the dock, it started sliding on its own, pulled by some invisible force into the darkness of the warehouse. I watched it disappear into the shadows. Then I got back in my truck and drove away without looking back. My phone signal returned immediately. I called Jerry from dispatch on his personal cell phone. "Jerry, it's Kevin. About that Arkansas job." "Arkansas job?" "Kevin, I didn't send you any Arkansas job. You were supposed to be off for the next 2 days." "What? You called me this afternoon. Pick up in Calico Rock, delivery in Memphis." "Kevin, I've been home all day. I'm on vacation. I haven't sent you any jobs." I felt like I was going to be sick. "Check your records, please. There has to be a record." I heard him log into the system remotely. Long silence. "Kevin, there's nothing here. No job to Arkansas, no pickup, no delivery. According to our system, you've been off since yesterday." I checked my own truck's logs. They showed the same thing. No trip, no cargo. Like the last 12 hours hadn't happened. But I had the fuel receipts. I had the miles on my odometer. And I had the memory of that voice and that crate and the thing inside trying to get out. I went home and didn't drive for a week. When I finally went back to work, I refused any jobs in Arkansas. Refused anything involving late-night deliveries. I don't know what I transported that night. I don't know who or what arranged the delivery. But sometimes, late at night, I'll hear scratching sounds from the cargo area of my truck, even when it's empty. And sometimes I'll hear a voice on my CB speaking in perfect unison, asking if I'm available for a special delivery. I never answer. Because some cargo isn't meant for the world we know, and some deliveries have destinations that don't exist on any map. I made one delivery for them. That was enough for a lifetime. My name is Antonio Rodriguez, and I've been driving trucks across the American West for 13 years. California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona. I've seen it all. Desert highways that stretch to the horizon, mountain passes that'll test your skills and your nerve, and truck stops where the coffee tastes like gasoline but you drink it anyway because you need to stay awake. What happened to me in Nevada in July of 2022 made me question everything I thought I understood about the roads I'd traveled 1,000 times. I was hauling electronics from Los Angeles to Salt Lake City, taking I-15 through the Nevada desert. It's a route I'd driven probably 200 times. Boring, flat, hot, and completely familiar. I'd left LA around 6 p.m. planning to drive through the night and arrive in Salt Lake by morning. The sun had just set, and I was about an hour north of Las Vegas when I noticed something odd. The mile markers were wrong. I'd just passed mile marker 97. 5 minutes later, I passed mile marker 96. I frowned. That didn't make sense. I was heading north. The mile markers should be increasing, not decreasing. Maybe I'd misread the first one. It was getting dark, easy to misread numbers, but 5 minutes later, I passed mile marker 95. I slowed down and really focused on the next marker. 94, then 93. The mile markers were counting down even though I was traveling north. I checked my GPS. It showed me heading north on I-15 exactly where I should be. But the physical mile markers on the road were going the wrong direction. Weird, but not alarming. Maybe there had been some road construction and they'd replaced the markers incorrectly. It happened. But then I noticed the landscape. I'd driven this stretch of Nevada desert hundreds of times. I knew what it looked like. Flat scrubland, distant mountains, occasional Joshua trees. But now, as I drove, the landscape seemed unfamiliar. The mountains were on the wrong side of the highway, the Joshua trees were too thick, too plentiful, and the sky. Something about the sky was wrong. I couldn't articulate what exactly. It was dark, stars were visible, but the pattern seemed off. The constellations weren't quite where they should be. I tried calling my wife. No signal. That wasn't unusual in rural Nevada, but I'd had bars just 20 minutes ago. My CB radio was silent. I hadn't heard another trucker in over an hour, which was strange for I-15. It's a major route. There's always someone on the CB. I passed mile marker 90, then 89. And then I saw something that made my blood run cold. A sign by the side of the road. A green highway sign, the kind that tells you what cities are coming up. It read, Los Angeles, 150 miles. But I'd left Los Angeles 3 hours ago. Los Angeles was behind me. South. I was heading north, toward Salt Lake City. Unless... I looked in my rearview mirror. In the distance, behind me, I could see lights. City lights. Lots of them. Ahead of me, the road stretched into darkness. No lights. No cities. Nothing. I pulled over to the side of the highway and stopped. I needed to figure out what was happening. I checked my GPS again. It showed me north of Las Vegas, heading north on I-15, exactly where I should be. But the road sign said Los Angeles was ahead of me, and the mile markers were counting down. I got out of my truck and looked around. The air smelled wrong, not like desert air, but like something else. Something metallic and electric. And then I realized what was wrong with the sky. The stars were moving, not the slow drift you see from Earth's rotation. Actually moving, shifting position, rearranging themselves like someone was shuffling cards. I got back in my truck quickly, heart pounding. My CB radio crackled to life. Northbound I-15, you need to turn around. You're going the wrong way. I grabbed the handset. This is northbound I-15. Who is this? You're going the wrong way. The road is running backward. You need to turn around right now. What do you mean the road is running backward? Exactly what I said. The highway is reversed. You think you're going north, but you're actually going south. You're heading back to Los Angeles. You need to turn around. That's not possible. I can see Los Angeles in my rearview mirror. It's behind me. No. What you see behind you is a reflection, a temporal echo. The real Los Angeles is ahead of you. Turn around. Drive south to go north. This was insane. Who are you? How do you know this? I'm you. I'm you from 3 hours in the future. You're going to drive all night thinking you're heading to Salt Lake. But you're going to end up back in Los Angeles at dawn, exactly where you started. And you're going to be 3 hours older with no explanation. Turn around now before you lose more time. My skin went cold. Prove you're me. The voice sighed. Your wife's name is Maria. Your kids are Sophia and Miguel. You have a scar on your left knee from a motorcycle accident when you were 19. Your truck's license plate is 4X-ray 7329. You're hauling electronics for a company called Pacific Freight. Do you need more? He was right. About everything. How is this possible? I don't know. But when we get to the end of this highway, we're going to end up in Los Angeles at dawn. We're going to have driven all night and gone nowhere, except we'll have lost time. Time we can't get back. Turn around now. Drive south. It's the only way to actually go north. This doesn't make any sense. I know, but I'm 3 hours ahead of you and I'm watching myself. You make the same mistake I made. Please, turn around. I sat there, trying to process this. Drive south to go north? It was absurd, but the mile markers were running backward. The sign said Los Angeles was ahead. The stars were moving in impossible patterns. What happens if I don't turn around? I asked. Long silence. Then, you'll drive all night. You'll watch the sun rise over Los Angeles. You'll realize you've gone in a circle, and you'll have lost time you can't explain. Hours that are just gone. Missing from your life. And there are consequences to that. Physical consequences. I'm 3 hours older than I should be. My body aged 3 hours while I went nowhere. What happens if you keep going? 6 hours? 9? How much time can you lose before it starts to matter? Before your body starts breaking down from the temporal stress? I looked at my hands. They looked normal. But how would I know if I'd aged 3 hours? I made a decision. I turned my truck around. I started driving south on I-15. The moment I did, everything changed. The mile markers started counting up, 90, 91, 92. The landscape shifted, became familiar again. Mountains on the correct side. Joshua trees in their normal sparse distribution. The stars stopped moving and locked into their proper positions. And ahead of me, in the distance, I saw lights. Not Los Angeles. Something else. The lights of a small town. My CB crackled again. Good. You turned around. You're going the right way now. Where am I? I asked. You're on I-15 northbound. For real this time. The highway is running correctly now. Just keep driving. You'll reach Salt Lake by morning, just like you planned. What happened back there? I don't know. Some kind of fold-in space-time. A loop in the road. The highway was running backward, sending travelers back to where they started while making them think they were moving forward. You would have driven all night and ended up exactly where you began. Has this happened before? I don't know, but I'm glad you listened. I'm glad I could warn you. What happens to you now? The future version of me? Silence. Then, I don't know. Maybe this timeline replaces the one where I didn't turn around. Maybe I just ceased to exist. But if that's what it takes to fix this, to keep you from making the same mistake, then it's worth it. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't be. Just, when you get home, hug Maria and the kids. Tell them you love them. Don't take any moment for granted, because time is more fragile than we think, and sometimes you can lose it without ever knowing it was gone. The radio went silent. I drove through the night, watching the mile markers count up properly, watching the familiar landscape of Nevada pass by. When I reached Salt Lake City at dawn, I was exactly on schedule, like nothing had happened. But when I got home 2 days later, I noticed something strange. I looked older, just slightly, tired around the eyes. A few more gray hairs. Maria noticed too. Rough trip? She asked. Yeah, I said. Rough trip. I hugged her and the kids and didn't let go for a long time. Because somewhere, in a timeline that might not exist anymore, a version of me had driven all night on a backward highway and lost time he could never recover. Had aged without traveling, had existed without living, and he'd reached back to warn me, to save me from the same fate. I don't drive I-15 through Nevada at night anymore. I always make sure to start that stretch during daylight when I can see the mile markers clearly, when I can verify the landscape matches my memories. Because some roads don't always lead where they should, and some highways run in directions that have nothing to do with north or south. They run backward through time itself, stealing hours from travelers who never realize they're losing them until it's too late. I was lucky. I got a warning. Most people don't. I'm going to tell you about my last night as a trucker. After what happened, I couldn't do it anymore. I sold my rig, got a job at a warehouse, driving a forklift. Local, work only, home every night. Because what I heard on my CB radio in December of 2023 convinced me that some messages aren't meant for human ears. My name is Daniel Kruger, and I was 49 years old. Been trucking for 23 years. I'd driven every major highway in America, logged over 3 million miles. I was good at my job. I was comfortable on the road. It was my life, until it wasn't. I was driving through Wyoming on I-80, heading east from California to Pennsylvania, with a load of bottled goods. It was December 18th, around 2 in the morning. A massive snowstorm had hit the region and visibility was near zero. I probably should have pulled over and waited it out, but I was behind schedule and the company was on my ass about delivery times. I was doing maybe 30 miles per hour, barely able to see the road. My wipers were working overtime, fighting the snow that kept piling up on my windshield. I hadn't seen another vehicle in over an hour. My CB had been quiet all night. Most smart drivers had already parked it until the storm passed, but I kept it on, the static somehow comforting in the isolation. At 2:47 a.m., the static stopped. Complete silence from the CB. Not even the usual background hum. Just nothing. And then a voice came through, but it wasn't a human voice, not really. It was something else. Something that had learned to form words, but didn't understand what they meant. Attention all drivers. Attention all drivers. This is your final transmission. Prepare for collection. I grabbed the handset. Say again. Who is this? Collection begins in 15 minutes. All drivers on I-80 eastbound between mile markers 200 and 250 will be processed. Do not attempt to exit the highway. Do not attempt to stop. Maintain current speed and heading. Is this some kind of joke? This is not a joke. This is your final transmission. You have been traveling on borrowed time. The debt comes due tonight. All eastbound drivers between mile markers 200 and 250 will be collected in 15 minutes. I looked at my GPS. I was at mile marker 217, right in the middle of the zone. Collected for what? What are you talking about? You have been traveling through a designated collection zone. Every vehicle, every driver that passes through this zone adds a small amount of temporal debt. Tonight, the debt is being paid. 14 minutes remain. This is insane. I'm exiting the highway right now. Exits are no longer accessible. Look. I slowed down and looked for the next exit sign. Mile marker 218 had an exit according to my GPS. But when I reached it, there was nothing. No exit ramp. Just a solid wall of snow-covered earth where the ramp should have been. What the hell? Exits have been removed from your reality. You exist in a closed loop of highway. Mile markers 202, 250. 50 miles. You will drive them until collection. I slammed on my brakes. My truck skidded slightly but came to a stop. Do not stop, driver Kruger. Maintaining motion is the only thing delaying collection. If you stop, collection is immediate. How do you know my name? We know all names of all drivers in the collection zone. Daniel Kruger, age 49, 23 years driving experience, 3.2 million miles logged, all recorded, all measured, all owed. My truck's engine began to rev on its own. The accelerator pressed down without my foot touching it. Maintain speed, maintain motion, 12 minutes remain. I tried to take control, but the truck was driving itself, maintaining exactly 30 miles per hour. I grabbed the CB handset again. Is there anyone else out here? Anyone else hearing this? For a long moment, silence. Then a terrified voice came through. Another driver. I'm hearing it. I'm at mile marker 234. My truck is driving itself. What the fuck is happening? I don't know, I said, but we need to find a way out of this zone. Another voice joined in. There are no exits. I've been driving for 30 minutes. I passed mile marker 250 and suddenly I was back at mile marker 200. The road is looping. More voices joined. 6 drivers total, all trapped in the same 50-mile loop, all receiving the same message about collection. What do they mean by collection? Someone asked. The inhuman voice responded, collection is the reclamation of temporal debt. Every mile traveled is a mile borrowed from the substrate of reality. The debt accumulates. Tonight, it is repaid. 10 minutes remain. This is bullshit, one of the drivers shouted. I'm not participating in this. I heard the sound of squealing tires over the CB, then a crash. Then silence. Driver Patterson has stopped. Collection immediate. 5 drivers remain. 9 minutes. What happened to him? I asked, my voice shaking. He has been collected. His debt has been paid. His miles have been returned to the substrate. He no longer exists as a traveler. You killed him? We do not kill. We collect. There is a difference. Another driver's panicked voice. I see something outside my truck. There's something in the storm, something moving alongside me. Do not observe the collectors directly. Observation accelerates the process. 8 minutes remain. But I couldn't help it. I looked out my window. In the storm, barely visible through the snow, I saw shapes. Tall, impossibly thin shapes moving parallel to the highway. They weren't walking. They weren't flying. They were just there, and then in a different place, and then somewhere else, moving in ways that didn't follow physical laws, and they were keeping perfect pace with the trucks. "Oh God," I whispered. 7 minutes remain. Driver Kruger, you have logged 3.2 million miles over 23 years. Your debt is substantial. Your collection will take approximately 4 minutes. It will not be pleasant. What will happen to me? Your physical form will be deconstructed. Your miles will be extracted and returned to the substrate. Your consciousness will be dispersed across the roads you traveled. You will exist as part of the highway forever, experiencing every mile simultaneously for eternity. This is collection. I felt tears running down my face. Please, there has to be another way. There is no other way. All debts must be paid. 6 minutes remain. The CB erupted with voices. The other drivers panicking, praying, screaming. One by one they went silent. Collected. 4 drivers remain. 5 minutes. 3 drivers remain. 4 minutes. 2 drivers remain. 3 minutes. It was just me and one other driver now. A woman's voice, shaking but trying to stay calm. "Daniel, you still there?" "I'm here. I don't want to die." "Me neither. 2 minutes remain." The shapes outside my truck were getting closer. I could see them more clearly now, though my mind couldn't process what I was seeing. They were like silhouettes of something that had never been alive, reaching toward my truck with appendages that existed in more dimensions than I could perceive. 1 minute remains. Prepare for collection. The woman's voice. "Daniel, I just want you to know I'm glad I wasn't alone. Thank you for being here." "Thank you too," I said, and I meant it. 30 seconds. The shapes were at my windows now. I could feel them even though they weren't touching the truck, could feel them analyzing me, measuring me, calculating my debt. 15 seconds. I closed my eyes. 10 seconds. I thought of my wife, my kids, my life. 5 seconds. The coldness of the shapes pressed against my truck. Collection beginning. And then, nothing. I opened my eyes. I was in a truck stop parking lot. Daylight. The storm was gone. My truck's clock read 7:23 a.m. December 18th. Over 4 hours had passed since 2:47 a.m., but I had no memory of anything after hearing collection beginning. I stumbled out of my truck, disoriented. Other truckers were walking around, getting coffee, looking normal, like nothing had happened. I grabbed one of them. "Were you on I-80 last night? During the storm?" He looked at me strangely. "Yeah, I was. Pulled over around midnight and waited it out." "Why? Did you hear anything on your CB? Any strange messages?" "No, man. CB was dead all night due to the storm. You okay?" I let him go and walked back to my truck. I checked my GPS logs. They showed me driving continuously from 2:47 a.m. until 7:23 a.m., but the location data was corrupted. Just a straight line from mile marker 217 to mile marker 217, like I'd driven for 4.5 hours without moving. I called my dispatcher, asked if there was any record of other drivers going missing last night on I-80. He checked. Nothing unusual. Why? No reason. Just thought I heard something on the CB. I completed my delivery to Pennsylvania in a daze. And when I got home, I told my wife I was done trucking. She asked, why? But I couldn't explain. How do you explain that you were supposed to be collected? Supposed to have your consciousness dispersed across millions of miles of highway for eternity? How do you explain that, somehow, impossibly you weren't? I don't know why I was spared. Maybe there was a glitch. Maybe my debt wasn't actually due. Maybe the universe made a mistake. Or maybe I'm not really here. Maybe I was collected, And this is just my consciousness experiencing one of the 3 million miles I traveled, trapped in a single moment of driving home, repeating forever. I don't know. All I know is that I never drove a truck again, because the voice on that CB radio said collection was inevitable, said the debt always comes due, and I'm terrified that one night I'll hear that voice again. Driver Kruger, collection was delayed, not cancelled. The debt remains. We will return. So I stay off the highways now. I work local. I go home every night, and I never, ever turn on a CB radio. Because some transmissions aren't meant to be heard. Some messages are final, and some debts are paid in ways we can't imagine, until the night when the collectors return, and the borrowed time runs out. Word count. 279. Some say the roads remember everything, every mile driven, every voice transmitted, every driver who passes through. And maybe they do. Maybe the highways are keeping score. Maybe we're all traveling on borrowed time. Thanks for listening. If you made it through the darkness, well, I hope it stays in the stories. I hope you never hear those voices yourself, but if you do, remember what you've heard here tonight. And whatever you do, don't stop driving.